welcome to Get Into It with Taz and Chris. How are you doing this evening?
Doing great. How's everything over there?
Good. Got a win tonight for the Pee Wee football team. And if you all didn't check out last night's episode, go check out last night's episode. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but yeah. And do you want to say?
Still love the new look.
Thank you. I want to say a huge thank you to our new sponsors, Tag Studios. And if you're into comics and sci-fi and all that good stuff, make sure you check them out at www.tagstudios.blogspot.com. And as always, let's jump right into it. The first thing is a very questionable judge in a certain county. So let's roll this beautiful footage and we'll talk about it on the flip side.
If you ain't sitting down, then you may want to take a seat, because what I'm about to share with you may just blow your mind. Meanwhile, in Rutherford County, Tennessee.
We begin this hour with an alarming new report based on a joint investigation by ProPublica and Nashville Public Radio. A decades-long system and practice of arresting and jailing mostly black children in Rutherford, Tennessee. At the head, the mother of the county, as juvenile court judge Donna Scott Davenport sometimes called herself. That's according to this report. Now the judge calling her work, quote, God's mission, all while performing so-called God's mission as the head of the county's juvenile justice system, allegedly directing police to arrest children at an alarming rate. It was literally a school to jail pipeline, according to this article.
So let me tell y'all how this all came about. So the mother of the county, the judge, instituted a policy that all children charged with crimes be processed through the detention center. So in 2016, 11 black elementary children were detained and or locked up for allegedly witnessing a fight between a 5 and a 6-year-old. And these elementary kids were actually charged with criminal responsibility, which isn't a real charge. She simply made it up. And you got the caucasity to say that this is God's mission? The hell? And this piece of work was actually instructing law enforcement to lock kids up in detention for simple things as truancy. And then she would label those kids a threat to justify them staying in detention. And as a juvenile justice advocate, that is a bunch of bullshit. And just to put things in perspective, in 2014, 48% of children were jailed under Judge Davenport's watch. The statewide average at that time was 5%. Oh, it gets worse. So kids as young as 7 years old have been locked up in her county. The county alone has violated the federal law 192 times. Kids have been locked up for more than 24 hours and at times up to 10 days.
How are you still
employed? In 2017,
employed?
Rutherford County agreed to pay out $397,000 to the 11 children, and half of that was used on counseling to deal with the trauma in which they had experienced. And the officer who signed off on the charges was suspended for just 3 days. Imagine that. Sounds about white to me. And y'all wonder why communities of color have such a fractured relationship with law enforcement. Look no further than this. But I bet if this had been an all-white school, you think this would have happened? I think not. And guess who's up for re-election next year? So to all my people in Rutherford County, you better vote that ass out. And remember, people who lynched and killed black people said they was Christians too. She ain't doing nothing but the devil's work. And that is facts on facts on facts.
Let me add a little bit more context to this. You know me, I go down rabbit holes. Maybe I shouldn't go down. Maybe I should. In the incident of the fight, there were young black girls that were arrested. One passed out, one threw up, and one urinated on herself from the stress and the fear. These are children, and the whole criminal responsibility, there's not a single adult. I checked. I double checked. I triple checked. I even went to the local, actually 2 of my local libraries to check the microfilm and the microfiche on this to see if I could find an old article, something antiquated. Maybe she resurrected something. I'm not saying what she did was right, but I want to make sure, because sometimes they'll resurrect a law that's been on the books for years that people forgot about. Not even an adult has been charged with that. It is not a charge anywhere. You witnessing something happening does not make you criminally complacent. It's only if you cover for someone or help them after the fact. These children weren't even asked what they witnessed. And she's doing this repetitively. And the non-BIPOC parents have been. Your thoughts?
Wow. Yeah, and all in the name of, Christianity, right? This just goes to show you and I'm not saying just within the past 4 years, but show you the extent that certain areas will just brazenly, go about their business in the name of something, and to have it on that level is the fear that we have now, where that feeds into everything that's going into our voting and things like that, where you have elected officials on different levels doing all this stuff to suppress and go after those that they've always considered inferior or different or whatever, and then they'll put it in the name of Christianity or something or other, and it's just, yeah, it's easy to say, these people need to be voted out, somebody else put in, but there's always another Susan behind the Karen, and unfortunately, that line is long too, along with the line that wants these people out, and that's an ongoing battle that we have. And but just to see the range of age, to see young kids that are just going way back in history, treated just inferior, treated like an object, treated like something they can control at their will and not care about what happens to them or their families. Because in the long run, this is something that is going to be internal for that child. This is something they're going to grow up with internally. And
not only that, it goes back to the prison pipeline system.
mm-hmm.
And once you get a person of color into the system, it's damn near impossible to get them out. And let's think about it. There are jobs you can't have if you have a certain level of criminal history. There are housing situations you cannot participate in because of certain criminal histories. Because we say all the time, well, if they serve their time, it would be fine. But if you look like me,
Right.
in any variation of the shade, they don't care.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're not about giving second chances. And there's a gentleman that I encountered before I was banned from TikTok, white gentleman, and he has traced his ancestry back. There's no indigenous anything in him, no amount of BIPOC. He admits it. But because of where he grew up and the people he grew up around, he's like you. He has a broadened sense of things.
Mm-hmm.
And he admitted, he's like, I got 3 felonies. I should be in prison right now. I'm not. Excuse me. People tell him all the time, oh, well, you paid your debt to society. And he was like, actually, I didn't.
Right.
But you all keep giving me these opportunities. And imagine being in elementary school. And I don't know about you, but going through school, especially in the United States, all I heard about, it's going on your permanent record. It's going on your permanent record. This is going to follow you for life. This is going to follow you for life.
Right.
And it wasn't truly, until I was fully an adult, out on my own, married, had children of my own, that I really understood what they meant by the permanent record. We think, oh, well, when I graduate, you're talking about my permanent record as far as school. No, no, these things are still passed along. They're still word of mouth. The things that they wrote down still trickle around. And they took away the hopes and dreams and everything of these children, because sending them to therapy is wonderful and needed. But not once did anybody bring up expunging their records. They didn't. They paid out this money. Well, the taxpayers paid out the money, because we know what happens when law enforcement gets caught up on things. The taxpayers have to pay the price. And this is what gets me with conservative, evangelical, Christian Trumpers. You're upset about Medicare, Medicaid. You're upset about EBT programs and Section 8, which are necessary because of how the United States economy is set up. But you're not upset with your Back the Blue sales and your Make America Great sales, when all of us have to pay the price for a mistake we didn't make, for indiscretions we didn't participate in. Because I'm not a police officer. I haven't killed anybody. I didn't lock anybody up.
Yeah, but do you see how a lot of them promote, well, the evangelicals already is literally like a political party. But you have all of them that are on the right now, that any of them that are running for anything, either there's something showing that Trump has given them the thumbs up, or they run an ad where they just so happen to be at some gun store where in the background you see a rack of guns. That's what they're running on. They're not running on any agenda other than what's been cemented on the right. So they're not talk of policies. They're not talk of build back better. There's no talk of, hey, let's improve such and such for the communities, or there is no talk. There's an agenda, but it's not an agenda for all of America.
Nope. And just to be clear, I know that I've been very vocal on the classes that I take and the bill that I want for police reform and to have certain things taken out of the hands of law enforcement. I am not anti-law enforcement. I am anti-bullying via law enforcement. And there are, I will admit, very good people in law enforcement through every step of the way. And I know you can contest to that personally.
Yes.
And there are some wonderful people that, and let me explain to people watching. When I think of law enforcement, I don't just think of the cops, the FBI, CIA, Secret Service. I also think of private security firms, bodyguards, things of that nature. I will say the most help that I have had as far as preventative measures have come from security companies. Whether I've been out and about hosting, out and about at a party or whatever, I will say that people who work for security teams do what I feel police departments should do. They're preventative. Because if I come to them and go, hey, this person is doing X, Y, and Z, I'm feeling uncomfortable, they've already grabbed me 2 or 3 times, that person is instantly on heightened alert, is focused on that, will go over, talk to the person, and before they can make a next move that's going to endanger me or anybody else, we'll remove them and make sure that they're gone from the premises. But I just want people to understand what I personally mean when I'm saying that and what it encompasses for me. I know it encompasses different things for different people.
And the agencies are like that. I know on the private side, you have private contract security companies, and you also have special police companies that that are private security who are officers that are sworn in, but they have only police privilege on that property they're contracted at. Once they step off that property, they're no longer special police. So there are different levels to that, but yeah, they are very dedicated to what they're there for. I mean, these are supposed to be professionals. They're there to handle business. They're hired, so they're there to, do what the clients want. Whereas others aren't under that same frame of mind. Even though, like I said, we do work a lot with local police departments on different assignments, different properties, different things where we just have a rapport with them, just because, as private security companies do, they're the ones you have to call. We have limitations to what we can do under the law. So once we step outside of the law, now we're vulnerable to going to court ourselves because we've stepped beyond our boundaries as private security companies.
And just to refresh everybody's excuse me, memories, would you mind explaining once again so the people understand where you're coming from and that you do have expertise in this, what you do and what your background? Actually, you can explain your familial background because you're
Yeah. Okay. Me personally, I've been in the security and private security industry for well over 20 years, closer to 25 now.
he
Uh,
owes oh,
I'm not exposing any age, but I will not say that I started when I was 12, but I won't expose my age. However, I have been working for probably the last 14 in security management. And my current position is as an office manager for a local security company. And I do come from a family that a lot of relatives, military. My father was a career FBI agent. He worked out of headquarters in DC. So the DC area, the suburbs, is where I actually am from, because my father did work out of headquarters in DC. And so there's definitely a side to our intelligence community that I really have a certain take on. No way am I saying, things aren't flawed. Even my father would say that. However, there's another thing to try to compromise agencies. Now we have what we didn't have back in the day, which is now we have the cyber security community, which is just as big as anything else, as we know. And so you have a lot of agencies that they can't afford to be compromised by any one man, as we saw the last 4 years, what happened to agencies when they were compromised and had individuals put in there to report to a single person. That's not how they work. They're there to serve the country. And when that happens, there's a lot of cleanup work that comes after that. There was a lot of good men in those agencies that either walked out or were fired. And it's a shame that there's a lot of cleanup work. So I do take a certain angle on how people look at our agencies, in a negative light, because there are things that have infiltrated those agencies. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of cleanup work. No agency is perfect across the board. Now, when it comes to local police, sheriff, etc., those are ones that are a little more compromised by location and generational. You get a lot in the, you could throw the fire department in there. You get a lot of people that, hey, that's what my father did. That's what my grandfather did. You get a lot of people that are in those fields because of family. And if they've already been compromised in their upbringing, they're taking that with them. And doesn't matter if you're in a big city or you're in a small town, you have individuals that didn't necessarily get in those departments on, good merit. They were basically brought in because of who they were or who they knew. And they are given a longer leash to carry out things when they're out on their beat, whether they're out on patrol or whatever, that, things can get swept under the rug and not see the day of light. The body cameras were supposed to try to be a safeguard, more or less, towards things, and it has to an extent, even though whether the camera's on or not, people are still acting the way they want, and there's work to be done. And I think anybody that, and I know a lot of law enforcement officers, I've had to work with a lot, and I'm pro police based on the fact that not all are bad. There are some that actually do want to do the right thing, and it's unfortunate they get overshadowed by the fact that there's a lot of dirty ones out there, and it's not a couple of bad apples. There's a lot out there, and a lot of good officers, male and female, have walked away, unfortunately, from police work because of the environment, because they knew that they were even being silenced by the majority within their department. So there is cleanup work, and the reform is crucial towards getting back to having some faith in the police department, because it's fractured big time, and it's fractured from within, and it's fractured in communities for people to have faith and confidence in a routine traffic stop, or somebody that's walking in their neighborhood, doing some neighborhood watch.
Here's the thing. Most people think that the fractures are the good cops.
No.
Because historically, when the police force began, it began during the slave trade. Mm-hmm. And the police force began to capture Black people that were escaping enslavement. So that's why a lot of people have that. And that's why a lot of racists claim, hashtag back the blue. Then I stand with the blue line. And I'm like, you do realize the blue line will turn on you. The blue line protects itself. It doesn't protect the police union. It doesn't protect the police department. It does not protect the public. And even though they scribble on everything, protect and serve, they don't protect, they don't serve. They come out and take reports and do what they want to do afterwards. And yes, and here's the thing. A lot of people get very confused with the term defund the police, but the police department has been defunded before. The EMTs and the paramedics that everyone relies on, that was the first defunding of the police department. Because a lot of people, and there are people who are alive to this day when this conversion happened, don't realize that if you had a medical emergency, police were dispatched to your medical emergency. They couldn't help you. So guess what? The death rate went up. And then they're like, maybe we shouldn't do this. And there were communities that were taking it into their own hands. And they started to decide to, create a nationalized base for paramedics and EMTs. And yes, there's a difference between an EMT and a paramedic. I'm not going to go into that tonight. Google, Firefox, Bing, Yahoo are all free. You are more than welcome to go through that. And maybe on another night, I will break it down for you all with a paramedic and an EMT. But tonight's not the night because there's just too much to keep people from dying at such a high rate. So it's like, why are we still sending police officers out to wellness checks, knowing that they're not equipped for mental health issues?
Absolutely.
And they're not, when they're not really equipped for issues of abuse in the home. Would a police officer need to be there in case an abuser gets violent? Yes, but they should not be the primary on the scene. I've worked with the police department, and in working with them, we had a whole panel, and our job was to teach them about spotting domestic abuse in the LGBTQIA plus community, because they would look at it in same-sex partnerships is it was just a fight, and they would arrest both people, and then both people could possibly be released at the same time, or the abuser could have been bailed out before them, and then they go and empty out that. And I'm like, no. Or, I have personally witnessed too many times someone in the house having a mental breakdown where they're not violent towards anyone, not even themselves, but they may be tossing things around the room. And the caretaker, the parents, the sister, the brother, the spouse, the partner, whoever, maybe like, look, I need help tonight. And how many times have we seen people turn into a hashtag because of that?
Yeah.
But with that, let's move on to kind of sort of a lighter topic. We'll talk about it on the flip side.
Let me give you a story time about how my mother found out her friends weren't really her friend. My mother was not amongst the working class. She was on disability, so we did not have a lot when I was growing up. However, her friends were part of the working class and they were able to afford quite a bit. There were two women that she befriended. They were all friends. But there was a falling out and some slight disagreement between my mother and one of those friends. However, my mother still continued her friendship with the other friend. Eventually, that one friend started to act a little shady. There was no texting back in those days. It was voicemails and phone calls. So my mother mentions to me, I'm calling so-and-so and she's not responding. Months went by. My mother never heard from her friend again. And although my mother was hurt, she let it go. Anyway, we were in the process of moving. My mother wanted to get rid of some old belongings, so she considered it as trash and put it on the side of the road. Well, we didn't need a trash man that week. Those two women became scavengers and began rumbling through my mother's trash. My mother passed by that window and seen that. She came outside and was like, well, look at here. You can't respond to phone calls, but you can rumble through somebody's trash? There's quite a few takeaways from this story. People can see what you have. And even though they may have more than you, they want what you got, which is the reason why I don't take the word friend very lightly. I don't call everybody my friend because I understand that some people, not all, will form a relationship with you only to look around your house to see what they can get. And the word home can be significant to a lot of things.
Okay.
Shade, no shade, but this takes me back to a situation early on in our friendship where we got booted from a certain group with no explanation, no nothing. People that were concerned about us being kicked out because they thought that it was a mistake. When they asked questions, they weren't told. And then recently, the person who booted us has been all over one of my social media profiles.
Remember, people that asked were told basically, why are you asking? Like shut up and stay or go. I mean, literally, we had people that were like, wait a minute. They both were, active participants. It wasn't negative. We were active participants, but there you go.
We ran certain nights in the group.
Yeah.
But I recently found out because I'm like, why are you commenting on my stuff all of a sudden? You block me on everything but this particular social media platform. And I'm not going to say which platform because people already watch this content and think that they live rent-free in my head. No. Just when I saw this video, it made me think of this. And another situation that we'll get into in a minute. So I went through their page and I'm like, haha. The friendship that you and I have,
yeah,
they finally got with someone else. So now they're slowly letting their guard down and trying to creep back in with us. And I'm like, baby girl, I already saw you. You already showed me your true colors. I'm good. I'm done. Toodles. And I think we all have to keep that in mind. There are certain people that will fake it till they make it because you're doing something great and they want that adjacency. But then when they begin to feel inferior in themselves, it's nothing that you've done. They lash out. And to be quite honest, I have been going through this same situation for about a month to the point where last Thursday, they put pictures outside my home, leading up to my home, which is very difficult to find. Even if I were to give you the address, they made sure people could find my front door. Because I don't want to fuck with them. because I'm not going to do this. And they're taking the stance of, if you're not going to be my friend, you're not going to be anybody's friend. And since this has started, I have heard verbatim, as if it's a Law and Order SVU script, the same story that's been told by 5 people now about who they contacted, how they contacted, and what the response was. And I'm like, so which one of y'all called? Or is she just repeating it to you so many times that she realizes the mnemonic device that she can use to put it into your brain and make you believe that you actually did this? Because I'm still wondering how folks are having conversations with somebody who's been locked up for a while now.
Yeah, go back to the word friends.
And my thing is, this person isn't even locked up in my state anymore. They've been extradited to a whole nother state because of crimes they committed in that state. I haven't publicly said where they are. It has not made it to the news as to where they are, because the victims that he has, everyone has agreed, we don't want to keep reliving that trauma. We don't want it out in the airways.
Yeah.
Now, on local apps, have people been warned? Like, hey, because it did kind of start a trend in certain areas where people like, oh, I heard through the grapevine this happened. I'm gonna do it, because they think this person got away with it. But I will say, you do have to be careful who you allow to carry that friend title. And not just the friend title. I'm going to go out on a limb and also say the best friend title, because I've learned that the generation before us, Chris,
Yeah.
if they survive 2 weeks with each other, they calling each other's besties, best friends, BFFs forever. And I'm like, you don't even know this person. And then 2 days later, there's a world star viral video of them fighting in the streets. Like, you don't, first of all, get to know people. Stop thinking you can profile hop and be like, oh, I know they're on this social media and that social media. I'll go and I can get the dirt on them. No, because everybody doesn't use social media the same way. And just because you may put out everything about your life on social media doesn't mean the rest of us do. And friendships begin and end every day. And if you can't let a friendship go, that's a you problem, not an anybody else problem. Now, if you screwed up that friendship and you realize, okay, I need to give it some time, then I can go to this person and apologize, that's admirable. But when you end a friendship over jealousy, when you claim, because it's always the people who claim to have more going on than you, but you running down to mimic my life, to make your whole personality trait about me, and I'm using me as a general example. This isn't a direct anything. You never had it going on in the first place. You wanted to be adjacent to me to make yourself feel worthy, to make yourself feel bigger than you already felt. And you need to ask yourself why you didn't already feel big, why you didn't already feel worthy. Because all of us are individuals. What's meant for you is meant for you. What's meant for me is meant for me. Your trials and tribulations are yours. My trials and tribulations are mine, and your victories are yours. Count on and lean on your victories. Don't compare your victories to mine, because my victories are always going to appear bigger to you, because you're going to always feel that you should have what I feel, because you already feel superior to me. That's why you want to gobble up whatever I throw out. And that's the perfect example of what this woman is saying. I'm beneath you in your eyes already. But you've allowed yourself to go, how was she blessed to have X, Y, and Z? And I work every day and I'm not blessed to have it. She throwing it out, I'm going to go get it.
Look how many friendships are based on that underlying word attention. Now, you have those that this is my best friend because, you know, they love clubbing as much as I do, or they love shopping as much as I do, or look at us, we listen to the same music together. When you have things in common and you feel like now I have someone who's given me their undivided attention, and every day we're calling each other, you know, it's like a couple. Whereas that can get
Yeah.
shattered.
Continue to talk. I'm putting you on solo.
Okay. That could get shattered as soon as, let's say, somebody gets into a relationship. All of a sudden, now they're not hanging out as much, or now they're not calling as much or texting as much because, well, now they're have an interest. They're getting to know someone, and that other person will take it very personal, and now look at the fact that, okay, maybe you're not my best friend no more. So now I'm gonna throw you under the bus. Oh, you weren't a good friend. You were horrible. I really thought you were, you know, you cared. Now you don't. I mean, it's literally like some of these bad relationship breakups. And it's all based on attention. It's all based on that self-esteem issue that that person had inside of them that drove them straight into the arms of a so-called friend. And it doesn't matter whether it was a male or female, as long as they were getting what they needed. And when they stop, the tables turn. And some people can get real ugly, and some people can just move on and say, you know what, you know, hey, I'm happy for them. They're in a relationship now. Let me go on, and, you know, maybe I'll find someone else to hang out with, or meet new friends. Or some people can handle it the right way, but when you have people that don't, yeah, things get very ugly, and you can see videos like, you know, like you said, where people are now fighting over something that is, you know, people, you know, grabbing wigs in the parking lot of Walmart, and, you know, it gets ugly. And it wasn't really based on the fact that this was a true bond friendship. Like, hey, we've been friends since, you know, 8th grade. This was something recent, something casual, that all of a sudden, hey, this is my best friend. Well, that, like we're saying, is really loosely based on, you're my friend as long as I am your priority, more or less. And when that
And you hit
stops,
the nail on
yeah.
the head when people look at their friendships as a romantic relationship, and they turn into, well, if you can't be my friend, you can't be anybody's friend.
Yeah, what do you
I
mean
got
you're dating
ruin
someone?
you.
What do you mean you're dating someone? Does that mean we're not going to
Right.
hang out?
And they act like, oh, I got to ruin you because you can no longer dedicate your time to me. I need to know everything about you in every move that you make. And the moment that I don't, but here's the thing, just like with a toxic romantic relationship, just like we discussed earlier, these people trickle back around. And it's like, you already dogged this person out. You attempted to ruin their reputation. You made phone calls about them. You made public posts about them. You made videos about them saying that they're the crappiest person ever. And then here you are in their phone, in their comment section, trying to rekindle that friendship because you knew that they weren't a crappy person. You knew that they were a person to be valued, and you knew that your life was better with them in it, but you wanted to put them in a box. Baby, I'm not, look, I'm old enough to know. I do not want to be in the hole being told to put the lotion on or I get the hose again. So when I get those vibes, baby, I got to peace out. And if you can't handle that, I'm never going to peace back in.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen it. And I'll use for an example, one an IR group I used to be in several years back. It was run by a male,
Oh,
and
no.
they were primarily females that were in there with some guys also. And this was somebody who definitely, I would say that this group that was formed for meetings people and getting to know people, and hey, if people make a connection, great. That wasn't the case here, and a lot of people found out after a while that the main admin, the founder of the group, wanted the attention from whoever he gave it to, so that anytime somebody else found somebody, whether it was in the group or outside of the group, and now they're expressing it to everyone that, hey, I found somebody, I'm happy. This admin who formed an IR group would never, hey, great, that's wonderful, I'm happy for you. Because if they had interest in that person, all of a sudden it's okay. This is the worst thing in the world, basically, because then all of a sudden that person is treated differently because they didn't get the attention from that person they wanted it from. And we see that a lot in groups where certain people, even the ones that maybe start the group, want that attention from whoever it is in there that they say, hey, I really like that person. That person needs to like me because this is my group. I'm giving them attention. They got it, and not even considering the fact that people gravitate towards people that they have things in common with. Compatibility.
People that don't know what IR stands for, it's interracial relationships.
Yeah.
And if you are in an interracial relationship, if you swirl, because that's what we say,
we swirlers,
and you want a safe space, Chris and I do both admin a group. We agreed after our situation that we would create a safe space, and we did. And if you want to be added, you all know where to find me, or if you're familiar with Chris, hit him up. We will gladly add you. We are no pressure.
It's a safe environment.
Yeah, we just want everybody to get along. We want you to be able to. Now, this is not a fetish place, so if you have a fetish for other races, we're not about that.
And it's not for vulgar or obscene things.
Yeah.
Come in there throwing all this,
Yeah, we are
half naked stuff in there.
A lot
it's
of
an adult. It's for.
We do talk about movies and TV shows a lot. We do share about good dates, bad dates a lot. There are people who will post questions for advice and things like that. Our only rule is predominantly just be respectful.
Yeah. And we like to laugh, because humor, with a life without humor is a life less exciting. If you don't like to laugh, I'm sorry, I can't really help you.
Yeah, if you find something funny, please share it with us, because we like a good chuckle.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be serious 24/7. You got to be able to laugh.
And even in our group, one of our members who can I still consider them being in the newlywed stage? I'm not quite sure how long the newlywed stage lasts. Our Canadian export.
I guess I don't.
But
I don't think so, because we're talking probably by now like a couple years at least. Couple.
I know. I mean, some people's honeymoon stage lasts longer than others. I don't.
Yeah,
but
we totally didn't know there was a honeymoon. Like, we didn't know there was a.
Yeah, true. But they recently reached out to me and was like, "Oh, first of all, they love our show. Yeah. They want us to keep it going. They watch. So hey,
awesome.
But we had a conversation. They're thankful for the group that we created and that we admin. And because neither one of us is trying to look for a mate in this group, they love the fact that they can post their photography as they're trying to get better in the group, or reach out to other group members, because I'm learning that there are people who have outside conversations outside of the group, and they share artistic thoughts, philosophical and I'm like, you know what? That's what that's about.
But it's the
That's the
groups, it's the
beautiful thing.
groups that take that stuff personal when they find out that, what do you mean you're talking off the record? What do you mean you're talking off the, what do you mean you have these side
Yeah.
friendships?
And that's why we
Um,
got kicked out of a group because
we,
it was found out that
shame on us,
we were friends in real life.
shame on us for encouraging that, because if you find people in your life that you can, whatever it is, and we don't mean that there's going to be some undertone of, yeah, I'm just doing this because I want to get with you. No, when you have a personality that, whether you're looking for someone or not, you just can gravitate towards people you have things in common with, and you can keep it innocent. You can keep it on a level that's respectful, and you can just talk about whatever it is that you have in common. I mean, there's compatibility
Here's the
sometimes
thing.
is so under.
You and I, Chris, got punished because it was discovered, we never hid it, that we had a real life friendship.
Yeah,
And
that's not a crime.
yeah, and at the point in time that we were banished from the originating group,
Yeah,
I was going through a very abusive relationship.
yeah. Mhm.
And what people didn't realize, you know what? I'm going to say it because it's my business and I can say it. If it wasn't for Chris, and when I would tell him I was going through stuff and he would be willing to FaceTime me, I probably wouldn't be sitting in front of you all today. Because the moment Chris would get on FaceTime with me, the abuser would stop dead in his tracks. Am I exaggerating?
Mhm. Nope. That's exactly
He was like, oh crap, there's a witness, there's somebody who knows what's going on.
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And it was like we were penalized because we befriended each other, and Chris decided to help me stay alive and help me escape. Because remember,
well,
remember my pre to Jackson, Mississippi, and you were on the phone with me there and back for till you had to go to sleep to get up for work.
yeah.
First of all, I had a ball because I got to be around people that I hadn't been around in a while to make me feel better. But y'all, that's what being on the phone with Chris while driving, I realized maybe I shouldn't drive by myself because I got jokes. I don't have road rage, I got road jokes.
We're also two people that shouldn't be on speakerphones.
Exactly. So, like, I'm driving. I got him on speaker because, of course, I'm driving, and
Yeah.
I'm explaining to him what I'm seeing on the road, and we're like Adam Sandler and Bernie Mac going back and forth.
Yeah. That's
Thinking
interesting.
about that trip now, I'm like, how did I not get run off the road? Because thinking back, because the air conditioning was making me too cold, and I had the window, they weren't rolled all the way down, but they were rolled down enough, and I had you through the car speakers because
Right.
as soon as I hit speaker on my phone, I never connected my phone to the car. I don't know why I did it, but I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah.
Well, I will say this. The timing of our friendship was a two-way street, because I too was coming out of something that was really unexpected, something that really hit me hard. I really just needed, an ear that wasn't judgmental, or someone that was going to try to sit there and problem solve my life. Um, and you gave me that in a way that was comforting, to the point where I could just open up and just, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm going through. This is something that I hadn't experienced before. Um, whatever comfort, guidance, whatever, I'll take it all in. I've had people in my life, even family members, who, if I reach out to them, it's okay, well, you need to do this first. And then after that, why didn't you try to do that? Or why didn't you try to, you shouldn't have done such and such. That's not the ear I need. And I will tell them, I don't need you to fix me. I needed you to listen to me. And there's a difference between listening and, okay, I'm reaching out. Help me, like, give me something. So that comes with friendship. That comes with a feeling that this is a person I can open up to. And this person over here is somebody that I'm going to just talk about other things about. I'm going to leave certain things out of conversations. And I know who those people are. And those people that I can open up to, those are ones you keep. And it means a lot when I have somebody, regardless male or female, that I can put things on the table and not be judged, because nobody really likes to be judged. Nobody really likes to be told, wow,
I didn't know that
what
that's
who,
how you felt.
wow,
I
what
was
idiot
trying
would
my
do
best
that?
to be a good friend, but I didn't. Wow.
Nobody would say, you don't want to have your ear be someone that's going to call you an idiot for doing something, or look at you like, why did you do that? Or why didn't you do this? Criticism is hard for people. I mean, we're going through a lot. And in this day and age, especially, you have a lot of people that aren't disclosing things that are going on inside of them. You have to have some kindness in order for you to receive. You got to be able to give what you can receive. And that comes with a good heart. Regardless what you're going through in your life. And I can sit here and, hey, I wish this was better. I wish that was better. But you make the most of what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of when you have a certain outlook and you've already been down the bottom of the barrel, and you've been looking up in dark times, you will appreciate the basics. You will appreciate things you have. You won't take certain things for granted. So I'm not telling everyone to hit rock bottom, but I can tell you it'll wake you up and readjust your senses, and you will look
Also
at
pay attention.
people.
Well, also pay attention to something Chris just said that honestly I never realized. I pay attention to the people who pay attention to you. Pay attention to the people when you call and go, I've had a bad day, and they're like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why is your day bad?
Mm-hmm.
Not the fixers, because we can't fix
No.
anybody else.
Mm-mm. And there's people that love to try to fix.
Yeah, and even when I was going through my darkest day, the most, if I'm remembering correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, the most Chris ever asked me was, what is your plan? And can I help you with the plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't recall you ever trying to fix it for me, ever.
No.
Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm,
No, you're fine.
And I am the same way with my friends. I allow people to vent to me. Vent to me all you want. Because some people are like me. Once you vent, either you feel better or your mind starts to work and you formulate a plan. I know that I am being demonized right now for my venting to other people, but I don't care. I'm going to vent till the day I die, because just like they say about a fart, it's better out than in.
Well, remember,
I don't have to sit here and become suicidal or have diminished mental capacity because I didn't vent. Because sometimes when you talk it out, and Chris, maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't, but sometimes when you just let out your frustrations, you feel a weight released from you.
Oh, absolutely.
When you vocalize what's going on, it starts to click like, shoot, maybe I do owe them an apology, or shoot, maybe I should have never been around them in the first place. How can I break it to them that this relationship has to end, whether it's a familial relationship, a romantic relationship, or a platonic relationship? Because sometimes you just need to talk stuff out. Some people do it by just, talking to themselves or talking to the mirror. I'm the type of person, where I need to talk it out to another person. Just like, okay. And with Chris, a lot of times in our conversations, if I'm recalling correctly, if I am not, like I said, correct me. I was, and you're like, oh, I do understand that. I have it. And that gave me validation where I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in this. I'm not going crazy. Somebody else on the planet has felt this way.
That's the two-way street I'm talking about, is when you have somebody that you connect with, and maybe it's not the exact same situation, but you have on that certain emotional level have experienced certain things that have brought you to a certain point. That is the connection that's made, not because, hey, you too, yeah, me too, I went through that too, yeah, exactly, just yeah, exactly. Like, it's not having a parallel connection of your tragedy. It's a matter of an emotional level that brings you.
Yes.
And that's when the respect comes in, and that's when you can say, you know what, I'm not alone. I can admit things that maybe I've done. I can, I'm not gonna put all the blame on the other person. Maybe I need to look in the mirror a little bit. You have to do self-reflection in order for you to prevent patterns. And too many people run patterns where I just can't stop finding the exact same type person. And it comes down to, where you're looking. What kind of energy are you giving out? What is gravitating you towards these specific characters, personalities? And you really do have to look inside of you. And it comes from learning. You have to learn yourself as much as you do other people. And you have to figure that you're not a bad person. For as many bad people you think that are out there, you have good people in your life too. You have to acknowledge the good in your life. So it comes down to taking what you have that's tragic, breaking it down to the basics, and building yourself back up with the positives. And you stay alert, you prevent patterns. I mean, I can honestly say in my life, yes, I could write a book of my life, and literally probably no two chapters are going to be alike, because I've had so many different experiences and I've pulled from them after I've come out of them. I've taken what I've learned and have moved on. I've taken what maybe I could do better, and I also took from what I allowed to be done and have used that as a tool for going forward. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to prevent something bad in the future, but at least it means I may not encounter that same thing, where I can identify it and say, you know what, this looks a little too familiar. I'm out. you know.
And I'm glad you said that, because that takes us to our final video of the night.
Okay.
And this was a doozy that I was not expecting. I legitimately came across this after little AJ's game tonight. So let's roll this and we'll talk about it on the other end.
Parents were promised that tough love would fix me and that sending me across the country was the only way. I was sent to 4 facilities of almost a 2-year period, and my experience at each one haunts me to this day. I was strangled, slapped across the face, watched in the shower by male staff, called vulgar names, forced to take medication without a diagnosis, not given a proper education, thrown into solitary confinement in a room covered in scratch marks and smeared in blood. On behalf of hundreds of thousands of institutional abuse survivors across America, I urge Congress and President Biden to make this bill the law of the land and give young people in congregate care the rights and protections they so desperately need and deserve.
Let me allow further context because before I was banned from TikTok, and even now on Instagram through the IG Reels, I've watched so many videos over the course of 8 to 10 months of people finally gathering their courage to talk about their parents doing certain things, thinking that it was great for them, facilities that they were sent to. But not just facilities, but Chris, you know about this, but I'm not going to say any names, so I know I'm not in jeopardy of anything. I dated someone whose mother, I truly believed, maybe the first person in the world to be, if she would get diagnosed, to have Munchausen syndrome and Munchausen by proxy syndrome, because she would do things to herself and do things to her children and grandchildren for sympathy or to think that it would better them. And I've heard so many now adults talk about being sent to facilities, being drugged, being abused, being talked down on, their parents not wanting to be around them, feeling that they were demonic. And two ladies broke it down to me, and I get it now. You have these pseudo Christians, these evangelical Christians that are just so steeped in the faith that they don't believe in abortion. And they have these children. And we're not even going to get into the trauma behind how they got impregnated, because I think y'all realize it wasn't consensual. And they have these children, and they feel that there's something wrong with the child because of how the child was conceived, as if the child knows how that they were conceived. And you run into things like this. You run into, oh, if you don't come out completely prim and proper and know how to be a proper lady and a gentleman, something has to be wrong with you. You must be sent away. Or I've always gone to this event every year, and because I have you and there's no children allowed, I must send you away. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody thinks about the parents that have no maternal or paternal instincts, no maternal or paternal desires. And that's why we have a system of evangelical Christian camps, conversion camps, and what Paris Hilton described as correctional camps to fix these children. They weren't broken. The parents were broken when they felt that they couldn't go against society. And in the past 4 months, the heart-wrenching videos that I've watched from the children of women who were forced to give birth after an assault, and not only how the mothers treated them, but how the families treated them, and where they sent these children.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But these are the same families, as they know how they're treating these children, will still go out and protest and go, no, you got to give birth. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it's despicable. But that's my take on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we could literally have a whole show on wellness, because it's vital that people don't feel like, what if I tell somebody I have anxiety? They're going to look at me as broken. I don't want that. You know, human nature doesn't gauge us towards being open about things that might be going on within us. Now, you can still function with some of these things. You're not totally immobilized on certain levels, unless obviously it gets to a certain degree where it's gone, where you haven't really dealt with it, and then it just resulted in something harder. It's okay to talk to somebody. I don't mix it. I don't mix anything up. I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm straightforward, and I have no problem admitting if something's going on in me, and I just need to talk it out, or I need to look at what's going on because I want to better understand what's going on with me. That's fine. It's when you don't that things get bottled up. Like you were saying earlier, where sometimes you just need to get that load off your shoulders and open up. Well, that's something you don't need to do once in a lifetime. That's something periodically you just need to do. That's why you need to have some good people you can count on, whoever it is. If it's not family, it's friends, it's whoever. Because it doesn't always have to be, well, if I have a problem, I got to find a professional. Sometimes you just need to talk something out. You know, you may not be on a level where you need medication or something like that. You may just need to have routine talks, and that's very healthy. Don't think that, you know, hopefully you're finding the right person who's not looking at you like you're crazy, because you're not. You're not crazy. Things gone undetected or untreated or undealt with could result in your health, and it's serious. In today's day and age, there's a lot of people walking around that would never admit that there's something going on inside of them. They'd rather look at somebody else as, oh my God, you admitted that you're, you know, dealing with depression, or oh man, you have anxiety, or oh my God, you have all these OCD issues. People can function. They're, like I said, they're not, you know, the lepers of the community. You just have to know that there's other people out there. Nobody is alone. You just got to find the right people in your life, and stop going to people that aren't really helping you. They just like knowing your business. So know who you go to, and share when possible, because you need to get stuff off your chest. Don't keep it bottled up. It's always helped me to have certain people to go to. You're definitely one of them. And there's people I turn to. If you're tied up, you know, I could draw from a couple other names. And that's what you need. Sometimes you need more than one ear, depending on what it is. Now, if it was something that I know you couldn't really identify with, I might have somebody else that, you know, has dealt with something in that way. And that's nothing personal against you or anyone else. It's just the fact that you have to find the right ear that's for you, and stop allowing people who just want to know your business to act like, I am here for you, I'm on your side. That's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and all they want to know is your business. That's the bottom line. So be careful who you bring in. I know we're going full circle to the friends thing, but be careful who you bring in, because your mental health is more important than that person who's not really helping you staying in your life for the wrong reasons. You can let people go if needed, because that may be something that is lifted off your shoulder that you really needed also. So take it away. That's me.
That's very, very true. And actually, that was the most perfect ending for the show that I could have thought, because what I was going to ask you about, you completely answered. So that concludes tonight's show. We will see you again next week on Get Into It with Taz and Chris. You can catch me tomorrow, because we're going to get into it with Taz and Dion, because, you know, I like differing male opinions, and that's what we're going to do. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. And, you know,
be kind to yourselves, people.
Yes, I'm always humbled to have you here. Oh, wait a minute. Let them see your. Wait, did you get a new shirt?
No, it's not new. Mando has always been around.
Why don't I have that shirt in my area?
That would be. It's not. I'm not promoting anyone, but that would be Cole's.
I don't have it at Michael.
Okay.
All right. You know what? We're gonna have to do a side-by-side show, because I'm gonna need to go shop in his area, because he keeps getting graphic tees that I can't get, and y'all know I'm not about that life. But as always, thank you all for viewing. If you missed any parts of it, once we conclude, you can go back and watch it from the beginning, and also make sure you go back and watch last night's show, because yeah, I think you're going to be very proud of us for what we accomplished last night. But like I said, once again, each one teach one, each one reach one. Thank you for joining us, and make sure you tune in same time next week. Good night.
Bye-bye.